Thank you all very much for coming. I'd like to start out with a hearty thank you to all the volunteers that have been working around the clock since the storm began. People serving their fellow man for no pay, just the gratification of doing a great job. If you see one of the volunteers, please thank him. And also, I want to thank everybody that works for the City of Bridgeport. This has been all hands on deck since Friday evening, and many people haven't stopped working except for brief rest periods in between. I want to thank them all because one of the great things about being mayor of Bridgeport is representing some of the greatest people anywhere, and they can get through anything. God knows they've been thrown just about every curveball in the last 5 or 6 years you could throw. We've seen the northeasters, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the blizzards. We're just sort of waiting for a volcano to crack up through the walkway somewhere. But I want to thank the volunteers. I also want to let the media be alerted that school is closed again tomorrow. We have our joint crews, Public Works and Board of Ed, working together to liberate street by street through the city, and therefore the schools are not completely cleared yet, and that's going to take some more time. I want to thank the residents, because the residents have really put up with hardships. They have not been able to get out of their homes in many cases, and we know how very, very difficult it's been. And we know that until your street is plowed, it really doesn't always matter to you what all the other streets are plowed or not. But we do have a system of streets. We're trying to make it so that once your street is clear, you do have access to that whole system of streets. Good news, we have really dramatically increased the number of the payloaders that we have. As we've said many times, the equipment that we have was not prepared for this amount of snow. The plows in southern New England are not as big as other plows, and we were just not able to plow this snow. So we've been all over the eastern seaboard looking for payloaders. And I'd like to thank Mayor Mark Boughton up in Danbury and Mayor Byron Brown in Buffalo, who were two of the people that came to our aid. The town of Wilton also yesterday sent some trucks. We want to thank all those towns and cities for helping us out. We still need payloaders. We have probably about a third of our city now is passable. We have approximately 900 streets of varying lengths, and about 265 of those streets have been cleared with a lane for passage. We do believe that by tomorrow over 300 streets will be cleared. It is a pretty painstaking process, as we said many times before. We do have many more payloaders on the street than we've had in the past, and we have about 70 vehicles out currently, and you can see some of them on our tracking system. I say some of them because the private contractors don't have GPS that we read. These are just the ones that are our own vehicles. You know, I travel around the city a lot today. I spoke with firefighters on Central Avenue who actually use the ski slope sleds to go out through snowdrifts and rescue people, pulling them many times multiple blocks to rescue people, to get them to their dialysis appointments, to get them their medication, to get them to the hospital. We couldn't be more thankful to those efforts, and the efforts in the neighborhoods. Sheridan Street, Burnsford Avenue, 6th Street, just to name a few of the streets that I saw where everybody went out with their shovels, their snow blowers, and they got to their street. And we want to thank them for that. That's what Bridgeport's all about. The difference here in Bridgeport, many of you asked me, is that we have more cars per square inch because we're very small and very condensed. And we also have narrower streets in our older neighborhoods. So they're less navigable, and we have difficulties maneuvering and also removing snow around the vehicles. So though there are some towns that have made what appears to be quicker progress, you can't compare apples to oranges. We've got the smaller streets, we've got the cars impacted in the snow drifts, and I just remind everybody how difficult this storm was. This is the most snow the city of Bridgeport got since 1888. There weren't any cars in 1888. Now there's lots of cars. And there's more streets than there were in 1888. And there's more apartment buildings than there were in 1888. And at the height of the storm, we had a list over here on the board, and Chief Gaudet had 23 of his police cruisers stranded in the snow. 23. We had 7 ambulances stranded in the snow. Those were at the height of the storm, and those numbers went up and down, but as you can see, there are none stranded right now. We are, as I said, very thankful to the towns that helped us, very thankful to our citizens for keeping so positive. Certainly there's been some frustrations, but we can handle that. We have had a couple of unfortunate instances. The Chief's going to talk about one that you've asked about. But we do want to also thank the President for declaring this a national disaster area. We also want to thank the Governor for the help that he's given us in terms of sending more payloaders. And all the people in uniform in the city and our ambulance drivers have been just serving heroically, and we want to thank them. We are aware, as you know, of another storm coming, and we are prepared. We're probably at the height of our preparedness that we have been for 100 years. We've got more equipment on the street than we've ever had on the street, so I guess we don't want to seem overconfident, but we're relatively confident we'll be able to handle what should be a modest amount of snow compared to this historic storm that we just had. So I want to ask Scott Appleby to just say a little bit about the upcoming storm, and then have the chiefs respond to some of the issues that are before us. Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor indicated, the Bridgeport Emergency Operations Center is actually monitoring 2 storms. The first Wednesday night. Right now, tentatively, it looks like the storm will impact our area anytime between 5 and 7 p.m. As the Mayor indicated, it's not going to be as big as this last storm. We're looking at about maybe 3 to 5 inches of snowfall. The snowfall should leave our area sometime Thursday around 4 to 7 a.m., and that's Thursday morning. So we are keeping an eye on that one. We know it's going to end up making it a little more challenging, especially with the large amounts of snowfall now. But our crews are out there. We've talked to them about this storm. We talked to them about just understanding what's there. The next storm is the weekend storm. Right now, it's anticipation of that storm. Looks like it may move out away from our area, not impact us. But as we do here in the Emergency Operations Center, we have to keep a close eye on that and prepare for the worst. So we are putting together strategies, instant action plans for that storm, but we hope we could put those plans on the shelf after if that storm passes by. But that's the latest, Mayor, on that storm.
Before we get to the chiefs, I do want you to hear from our deputy in the Public Works Department, and I did neglect to make one point probably as strong as I should have. The people of the city are frustrated with this storm, but they have acted with incredible resiliency and incredible understanding, and they've gone out of their way to help the ambulance drivers, help the firemen, help the policemen, help the public works crews. So we really want to thank the citizens. It's just been an amazing turn of events for them, and they've done just an amazing job. Ted's going to tell you about our plan on how we're going to get through all 900 streets.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Ted Graybars from the City of Bridgeport, Deputy Director of Public Facilities. As you know, we've been at this for several days now. We've got, as the Mayor indicated, just about 270 streets open at this point. Open, qualified to say there's obviously still snow on these streets, but they are passable. Our main effort's been to get all of the streets open and passable throughout the City of Bridgeport over the next several days. In addition to the timing that the Mayor said, we also hope to have probably about 300 open by tomorrow morning, as he said. We have 21 snow routes that we normally man, so we have a truck in each one of those at this point, as well as marrying that up to payloaders, because obviously, as you know, in storms of this significance, you just can't, particularly in a very dense urban area like we have, just can't plow the snow out of the way. You need to actually be picking it up and moving it to a location where you can then disperse it later on. So as the Mayor said earlier, we've got probably about 100 pieces of equipment out, including both our trucks, all of our payloaders and smaller equipment. We're expecting that probably by the end of this week, absent any other significant snow, that will be moving from a purely street clearing operation that I would say by the beginning of next week, we should be primarily in a snow removal operation where we're actually taking the snow that we've had to dump in other places and starting to cart that away into major laydown areas throughout the city like Seaside Park and other areas that we'll be able to put that sort of equipment. We kind of reconfigured our timing on shifts in the last couple of days to work a little bit better. We've gone from, as you probably heard earlier, from about 75 streets open yesterday morning to, as the mayor indicated, about almost 300 by tomorrow morning. We've changed our shifts in that we've reduced the timing on a lot of our folks. You know, as the mayor was saying, a lot of people working extremely long hours. And, you know, coming from a military background, first thing you got to do is take care of your people because they're the ones that protect you. So we moved more into a situation where we're running 06 to 1800, 6 in the morning to 8 to 6 p.m. for a day shift and then a night shift in the same time period of 12 on, 12 off. Addition to that, we have all of our supervisors and all that are maintaining contact and command and control over the forces in the field. And as the mayor earlier indicated, you know, we have our GPS system on the majority of our major vehicles to maintain situational awareness of where they are and provide a common operational picture of all of our assets out in the field. Subject to your questions, that concludes my brief.
Mayor, could you, in a nutshell, just explain what factors contributed to being unable to stay ahead of the storm?
Well, the quickness with which this large amount fell, Lou, we had, I think it was almost 2 inches an hour falling on Saturday morning. The conditions were so dangerous that we actually pulled some of our trucks off the road. We never sent crews home, but we held them off the road for several hours while the conditions were just unsafe. By the time the plows got back on the road, the snow was too deep for the plows. That's when we started realizing that we needed the front loaders, the bucket loaders, and we scrambled all over the place for those. So that was the one condition. The condition that's the biggest factor, I mean, is just the amount of snow. No one's prepared for this amount of snow. And it's going to take time to piece it together and get it taken out of here. But in addition to that, we do have the problem of people not obeying the car situation. We had the snow emergency situation, and people did abandon they went out and got into dangerous situations and left their cars. And so we're still towing them out of the middle of intersections. I'm sure you saw some driving around town. It's a mess. So, you know, but it's just the sheer mass of this storm, the sheer amount of snow was just more than anybody, well, obviously more than we've ever had.
And then the surrounding communities had the same snow, that they're ahead of it. You were making some differentiation between you and yourself and the surrounding communities. I
think that wherever you have urban, dense urban areas, we're on the same track. Where you have a suburban area with off-street parking and you know, fewer people and fewer homes, it's much quicker to clear. So I think we're on track with other cities. I think we're on track with parts of Milford and Hamden that were hit very hard. It's just that we have a very densely populated area with very narrow streets and cars all over the place. So, you know, a blizzard like 1888 hopefully doesn't come around again. So it's just going to take a while. Rob.
Can you and the chiefs talk about the medical responses and some of the challenges there?
Yeah, I think that's best answered by Chief Rooney. He's going to run a ski operation when he's done.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Our department has really met a challenge that we've never actually trained for before. We've gone to schools for 14, 15 weeks to become a certified firefighter, but never are we ever training on how to respond under these type of conditions, okay, such as a snowstorm of this magnitude. So the firefighters out there did such a fabulous job. They were very innovative, and they met these challenges by creating different ways to respond because of the fact when the storm started to really get severe, we were unable to go out and use our apparatus anymore because it was just impassable. We had one of our fire trucks that was stuck out in the snow there for 6 hours before we can get someone to get the thing back into the fire station. We had another one stuck out there for a couple of hours. So we soon realized that we were unable to really respond with these fire trucks because the streets were not plowed and it was just too deep for the trucks to go down. So we were went into a limited response, okay? What do I mean by that? We were not going to automatic alarms anymore. We weren't going for lockouts and things of that nature. We also limited our calls on medical calls to the point where we realized that the best way for us to help AMR or our medical team out there was to use our smaller vehicles. We used our Suburbans to respond out there. We put on, like the mayor said, we call them Stokes baskets, sleds. We had them up on top of the roof so that we could get at least maybe down the main road, and from there we'd have to walk into wherever the patient was. So we coordinated this with AMR, and it got to where they would call us if they needed us. If they needed us to assist in the transportation, that's how we responded, and we were doing that. We took out quite a few dialysis patients, as well as some people who were in cardiac arrest. We put them on the sleds, got them out, got them into the vehicles, and helped transport them to the hospital. So that was our role, and it was really something that the firefighters themselves thought of during the storm when they realized they couldn't respond any other way.
Chief, you able to talk about, I guess, yesterday at Stevens Street, there was an incident where somebody actually passed en route to the hospital or at the hospital. You know, from the city side, were you, do you have any information about that? How that
Yeah, well, what I had said in the beginning is that we had sat down with the response team, the American Medical Response, and we were in the same room. We said, look, we're not going to be able to respond to these medical calls. However, we will assist you. When you get there, you do a triage on it. If you need us, we'll respond there the best that we can, and we'll help transport that person back out and into your ambulance or whatever else that we can help you with. But when you get there, you call us because we are at a limited response because of the road conditions. And so on this particular call, I don't know, from what I can tell, they never called us to ask for any assistance. So I don't have any other further information on that particular call.
Do you know if they were able to get to, were they blocked by snow?
From what I was told, yes, the street was blocked with snow, and they did have difficulty getting in there.
Does anybody have a total death toll for this storm?
I think there was three.
And
Three.
Can you characterize it as the 3 deaths?
I don't have the results of why they died. I think a couple of them were exposure, that they fell down in the snow and we came upon them and they succumbed, or we did have a heart attack,
And
I
the
think,
third
on one of
one?
them. I think it was a cardiac arrest.
Linda?
Think it's realistic that schools could open Thursday?
You know, we're not sure. You know, we were the last school to close and the first one to open during Sandy. We want to get our kids in class to catch up with their counterparts as much as we possibly can. But at this point, because of the conditions of the roads in the city and the fact that the Board of Ed employees and the city employees are really working as one team, similar to the school security now being merged with the Bridgeport Police Department, we have more of a unified command and control than we've ever had. It's hard for me to imagine they get the resources to open on Thursday, but we're working very hard, and if we can, we will. But we're hoping to be able to do is to send them to school next week. And that plan is being talked about with the superintendent and his union.
Do you know how much of the equipment that was sent here from, you mentioned Buffalo, Danbury, you know, the National Guard has equipment here from...
Oh, can I just stop you for a second? We got to thank the National Guard. And I didn't do that, and I felt bad sitting up here forgetting what I forgetting what I said. The National Guard was amazing. Brandon, you saw them. I mean, they were getting employees to the hospital. They were getting employees to here, to the 911 center, to the nursing homes. We just can't thank the National Guard enough.
How many pieces of equipment on the roads right now is, I guess, donated?
Donated pieces of equipment. We have a fire apparatus. We have 3 Humvees and 2 medical Humvees.
We have right now, there's 2 medical Humvees that were donated, that came down from the National Guard. We have a total of 6 Humvees that have been assisting us in responding to pick up critical infrastructure employees, hospital employees, as well as our own 911 personnel, our first responders. We also have 2 fire department crash trucks. One fire department crash truck that would be able to assist the fire department in responding to any types of larger structure fires. We have a request into the National Guard for a couple more payloaders, as well as some troops to help us shovel off some of the flat roofs and our hydrants and our storm drains.
But more specifically,
I'm sorry. And we have four 5-ton transport vehicles from National Guard that are assisting our police department in responding to calls out in the public.
Trucks.
Yeah, large
Big trucks.
Brandon, of the 30 payloaders, 3 are donated from the National Guard. Was that your question?
Pretty much.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks, everybody.
Mayor, quickly, what can people do if they're out of formula or running out of food or anything like that?
Well, the grocery stores are all open right now.
But they can't get out to the street, let's say.
Have them contact the Bridgeport Emergency, yeah, have them.
Call here,
yeah, have them contact-
576-1311. All right, and we'll try to make arrangements.
I've been getting those questions already, and I didn't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you, that's a good point.
Yeah.